Hey guys, what's up? I'm Magic Bard and I'm going to show you the basics of After Effects and really how to get started in After Effects. So this tutorial is really for beginners and people that have never used After Effects before. So let's jump into it and see if we can learn a few things about this compositing software. I'll assume that you've already done editing before on a editing platform or software like Premiere Pro, Final Cut Pro, maybe even Vegas or anything like that. So you know the basics of how editing works. After Effects is a compositing software, and to give you guys a definition, this is the first thing I came up with on Wikipedia, is compositing is the combining of visual elements from separate sources into a single image, often to create the illusion that all those elements are parts of the same scene. Okay, so what compositors do are basically take video clips and then add stuff on top of that. That's the essence of it. So let's check out After Effects. Okay, now when you first open it, if you guys don't see exactly what I'm seeing, I want you guys to go up here to the window, click on that, go to Workspaces, and then click on Standard. Okay, and usually when I'm using After Effects and doing my compositing in here, I have my workspace on standard or the default. So either click on one of those and then you should have a layout very similar to this, which is over here we have our project panel. Okay, and now the project panel is where you'll have your video clips, your images, logos, all that kind of stuff will be over here. Now in the middle we have our composition, so this is where it's going to show you your video file, the file that you're going to be doing all your compositing with, and then down here is your timeline, so you'll be able to see all of your clips as like layers, and you can composite with those and see them on the timeline. And then we'll get into all these other panels and stuff in a second. So the first thing you'll probably want to know is how to import footage into After Effects. The easiest way is double clicking inside of here. You can also right click, go to import, and import your files that way. And then the way I like to import files, because I'm using a Mac computer, is by dropping drag and drop, right? So I'm going to take a couple of these files and just kind of drop them right into my project panel right here. Okay, so I got my Hollywood sign, and these are all just stock footage elements that you guys can get off of videofort.com, where we sell a bunch of aerial and video stock footage. So I've got my clips right here. Okay, and as you can see, as I'm clicking on them, you can see what aspect ratio they're in. Okay, 1920 by 1080. You can see the frames per second and all the data that you really need to know. Okay, the name of the clip, and then a little screenshot of the clip, or the thumbnail as that's called. So you can kind of scrub through that, check that out, and then if you move this over, you can see more data on the clip, like the size, the duration, and where exactly the clip is on your hard drive or computer. So once you have your footage, the next thing you're going to want to do is create a composition. Okay, so the easiest way of creating a composition is by going to Composition and clicking on New Composition right here, or Control N is the keyboard shortcut. So for that, you're going to plug in all the information you need for what type of composition you're going to make, including the duration, how long you want your composition to be. So this would be 10 seconds and 18 frames. The frame rate of that composition, 23.976, is essentially 24 frames per second. If you've heard people say that, it's the closest to film look that you can get. The composition width and height, so 1920 by 1080, which is HD. If you guys are creating something for Instagram, I would go 1080 by 1080, or even 13, or it would be 1080 and then a height of 1350. Okay, Instagram also accepts this aspect ratio. And then you could name your composition. So Instagram comp, and then you would press OK. And then now you have a timeline where you can drag and drop footage into. So I'm going to just delete this right now. Just right click and or click on this trash can right here to delete it. And the other way you can create a composition is by dragging one of your clips into this new composition button right here, and it'll automatically create a composition based off of the clip's information. Okay, so let's go and see that. If we go into composition settings, it'll show you exactly what it did. 1920 by 1080, that's the same as this clip, okay? 1920 by 1080, and the frame rate of 29.97, same as the clip, okay? So that's a fast way of creating a composition exactly to the size of your clip, which is most of the time what you want to do. So now we have our clip inside of our timeline, and we can rename this just by clicking on it. Press return on your keyboard and then rename it Dallas Skyline, and then press enter again, and you've got that. And then you could scrub by using the playhead, clicking and dragging and looking through your clip and seeing that in your composition. So this is your timeline. You could see that right here, 2 seconds, 4 seconds, 6 seconds, and scrubbing around is as easy as that. So now compositing is adding multiple clips or layers on top of each other and playing around with them, editing them, animating them is a big part of After Effects. So let's add another clip on top of this. So there's a few ways of doing that. You can take a clip and drag it right into your composition panel and drag it wherever you want, okay? And then you can move it around. I'm just going to click it and delete it. Another way you can add it is go down here, drag it down here to your timeline, and then you could see this little mini playhead as I drag it around, and this one will place the clip at a certain time frame that I want it to. So if I just drop it right here, it'll start, the start of the clip will begin right there, okay? So you see that. And I'm going to delete that. So what I usually do is drag it right into the composition like this, let go, and now we're right in there, and the beginning frames at the very beginning, and we're looking good. So you have 2 layers, okay? You have your Vegas MGM Grand clip and your Dallas Skyline. Now let's look at what we can do with these clips, okay? And if you see this little toggle button, the arrow or triangle key, click on that and click on your transform, and this will open up all of your transformation parameters, okay? Now these are all the things you can change in the clip. So my anchor point, position, scale, rotation, and opacity. So say I want to move the position of my clip. This is always X, Y, and if there's another parameter or another number here, it will be Z, okay? So Z space. So X is obviously left and right, Y up and down, and then Z would be forward and backwards into space. That's 3D stuff, which we won't get into here. But so say I want to scale this down to 50%. I could click and drag on this number, okay, and scale it like that, or I can click once, type in a value like 50, and then that'll size it down to 50%. So actually I want to bring this down a little bit more, maybe to about right here. And I'm just going to add one more thing, one more element into my project panel, which will be this Video Fort logo. Okay, now notice this is a PNG file, not a video clip like the other ones. I'm going to throw this logo right onto my composition, and here we've got a PNG file, and as you've noticed, when you add images to your timeline, it'll fill up the whole timeline, okay? So this covers my whole clip right there. Now what I'm going to do with my logo is I'm going to toggle and close this video clip, and then I'm going to kind of create a watermark with this logo. So I'm just going to open this up, open up my transformation, and then size it down. So just drag this number until it looks like a good watermark, which is around here, and then I can move the position by clicking on it and dragging it around to the bottom right corner and let go, and now I've got a nice little watermark. And now maybe the red of this VF logo is too bright and too in your face. So what I'm going to want to do is turn down the opacity. Okay, so just click and drag this down until it looks like it's good, maybe around 45%. And now you've got a slightly transparent logo as your watermark. Okay, pretty cool. Now let's do a quick little animation with this video in the center. So I'm going to close this down by just clicking on the triangle button. So with our Vegas MGM Grand video, there's a few things we can do. Now, when you're working in After Effects, sometimes when you're doing any type of complicated compositing, you'll end up with a lot of layers. And when you're working with 20 or something layers, you're going to want to see only one layer at a time. When you're working with 20 or so layers, it'll start to slow down your computing power, and maybe you want to work with one or two layers at a time. So what you can do is right on this little circle right here, you can start to solo clips, which means it'll only show that clip in the composition. Okay, which is nice because then your computer doesn't have to render everything else while you're working on it. Okay, and you can also solo 2 layers at once if you want to, or 3 or 4. Just keep clicking on this part, and then if you want to go back to your regular composition, just unsolo them by clicking them again, and boom, you can also hide layers by clicking on this little eye button, which is the visibility switch. So all you have to do is click that eye, and then things will start to go away. Click it again and they'll come back. Okay, so this just is when you want to show and hide stuff, and then when you want to solo things. And this little lock button is, as you can guess, if you click it, then it'll lock it into place so that you can't select it. Okay, so when I click on it, it won't let me select it, and I can't select it here. So you know, as you can see, I'm selecting the clip that's behind it. So Command Z to bring that back and unselect that lock button. Now we're working with it again. So let's do some animations. I'm gonna hit P on my keyboard for position, and as you notice, if I hit S is scale, A is the anchor point, R is rotation. These are all of your keyboard shortcuts, okay? And these are very useful. So S for scale, P for position, R rotation, A anchor point. So let's open up our position by pressing P, and we can see that here. Now what we're going to do is create a short, quick little animation. So to do animations, you're going to click this little stopwatch clock button. So if you click that, it's going to create a keyframe right wherever your playhead is. So that's right here. And now what I want to do is move the position from left to right. So all you have to do is drag your playhead out to however long you want this transition to happen, and then move the position, okay, of your clip. So I'm moving it over to the right, and you can see what's happening here, which is our position is moving or animating to the right. And that's with these keyframes. And basically any parameter that has these little stopwatches means that you can create an animation for it, okay? Or you can animate that parameter. So as I move from left to right, I also want to scale and make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so scale it up. And now what's going to happen is it's going to move left to right and scale up. Okay, so this is just the basics of animating, and this is how you can animate things in After Effects. Another thing I want to show you guys is the Effects and Presets panel. Okay, now if you don't see this, you can click on these little arrows and, oh sorry, you probably don't see that because it's off the screen, but down here it says character, brushes, and my libraries. So I'm going to select my Effects and Presets. Also in your window, you can go to Effects and Presets and it'll open up there. Now say you're watching another tutorial that I'm doing on probably a more advanced effect or trick on YouTube, and there's a panel that I'm using but you don't see it on yours. If that is ever the case, just go to your window and find that panel, and then it'll open it on your screen. Okay, so let's just add a basic effect to our MGM Grand clip, and what you can do to add effects is toggling down and looking for the effect that you want, and kind of this is just a basic way of searching it. Or you can go to the search button, the search box up here, and you can search for the exact effect that you need. So maybe you want to use a blur. If you type in blur, you can see all the different blurs there are in After Effects, but I want a specific one called a fast blur. So I type in fast, and then I'll see it right here, fast blur, boom, ready to go. Now to apply an effect to a clip, you can click and drag it onto it. Okay, so you can see which clips are highlighted when I drag it on here, and it'll tell you. So I'm going to apply it to my MGM Grand, and then you'll see your effects controls will automatically open up and show you that your effect is applied to the clip. Another way that you can apply an effect to a clip is by dragging it straight into the effects controls window. Just make sure that your clip is highlighted up here. Okay, I'm going to delete that. And another way is just by dragging it right onto the clip down here. Okay, so you can drag it onto your PNG file, your video clip, or what have you. So we already have the fast blur on here. And what I'm going to do here is now you want to mess with the parameters, okay? So the blurriness of the clip. And if you just drag this, you can see my clip start to blur. Now, what I want to do is animate the blurriness of this as well. So as my clip goes from left to right, I'm going to set a keyframe here, right where the playhead is, move it out, right above my other keyframes, and make it a little bit blurry. Okay, cool. So now we've got three animations going on. We have our scale, position, and our effects blurriness, as you can see right here. And if I open up my effects, you can see those keyframes as well. Now this starts to get a little messy when you're doing all kinds of animations with different effects, transformations, and that kind of stuff. And when you want to see all of your keyframes and without having to scroll up and down like this, you can press the U button on your keyboard, and that'll show you all the animations that are going on in that one layer, which is very helpful. You press U again and it'll close it back up. Okay, press U and that'll open it back up. Boom. Okay, so that's a quick way on how to use the animations, keyframes, and adding effects in After Effects. Now another thing you can do is add a shape layer or shapes to your project as well. So have your timeline selected just by clicking in here, and then if you go up here to these shapes, click and hold, you can see the various different types of shapes that you can create. So maybe I want to create a star on this one, and right here it'll tell you the fill or the color that it will fill that star, and then the stroke and how thick, which is how many pixels of thickness that star will have. So if I just click and drag, it'll create a star, okay? And you'll see right here it'll say shape layer 1, and that'll create your poly star right here that you can also, remember, if we scroll down and look at our all the different parameters that we have, you can keyframe just about everything that that star is created with. So using your imagination, you can really do some pretty cool animations with shape layers. So I'm just going to delete this for right now. That is the shape layers. And let's say you want to add a solid, just a big color solid. Go to Layer, New, Solid, and then you can choose the color of your solid. So maybe I want my color to be red solid, and if you click on Make Comp Size, all you have to do is click that. It'll make it to the size of your composition. Okay, so mine was already at 1920 by 1080, so we're fine there. Press OK, and boom, you've got a nice red solid. And you can move that around and do all kinds of animations. You can keyframe all of its parameters as well for that too. So say we want to create a vignette. Okay, now vignettes are usually darker on the edges, so I'm not going to use red, but I'm going to use a black color. So to change the color of your solid, go to Layer, Solid Settings, okay, and then we can click on the color and change that to black. And then what we want to do is kind of blur the edges of our composition. So I'm going to go to our shapes and click, hold, and then click on our ellipse tool. Now, when a layer is not selected, like right now, no layers are selected, and you create a shape, it's going to create a shape layer, okay? But let's delete that. If a layer is selected and you're using the shape tool, this will create a mask, okay? Which basically creates a cutout of that layer. Okay, so I'm creating a circle of that layer. Now let me show you that one more time. So I'm going to delete this mask by clicking on it, pressing delete, and if I have the star button, the star tool, and I create a star, it's creating a mask of my black solid layer, okay, which is basically a cutout of the black solid layer. So that's kind of cool. And let me delete that again, go back to our ellipse tool, and instead of clicking and dragging, what I'm going to do is double click on the ellipse tool, and that'll create a perfect ellipse to the size of my composition. Okay, so this is step one of creating a vignette. Then I'm going to scroll down to show you just all the different mask parameters, and then instead of an add, click on that and go to subtract. So it's going to subtract the area of your mask, and now we have the black on the edges. So we're getting there. And now the next thing I want to do is create a feather. So feather out or blur the edges of this mask, and you can just drag that out until it looks good to you. And now it's looking really dark on the edges and dark in the middle, which is what I don't want. So then I can go to my mask expansion, okay, and expand it until I have what I'm looking for. And that's how you create a vignette. So I'm just going to click on this, hit return, and then call it a vignette. Cool. And that's how you use solids to create vignettes. So basically, these are the basics of After Effects in terms of how to use keyframes to animate, how to composite by putting layers on top of one another. So remember, the layer that's on the top will be on the top of your composition, right? So if I put this Dallas skyline above my vignette, the vignette is going to go away, and so will everything under it as well. So that is how the layering works in After Effects, and basically I think every single editing software that there is out there. So, you know, sort of self-explanatory, but yeah, guys, this is the basics of After Effects. I hope this helps you in getting started in After Effects. Once you kind of understand the panels, where everything is, how it all works, start to check out our other tutorials on video for it on YouTube, and you guys can start to learn rather quickly just by creating basic visual effects from little tutorials like this online for free. And that is essentially the way that I learned how to use After Effects and became a visual effects artist. So it's just a great way to learn the basics right here, and then later on you guys can start to go into more advanced stuff by checking out our other tutorials. So guys, I hope this helped you out. If it did, leave us a like, and if there's any type of visual effects or that you guys would like to learn more about, please leave us in the comments and let us know what is up, and I'll try to create a tutorial based off of that query as soon as possible. Thanks for watching. This is Video Fort. I'm Magic Bard, and I hope to see you guys more. Definitely like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.